Jodi Arias murder trial, again, deliberations now officially at 14 hours. Still no verdict. Want to bring in great criminal defense attorney Esther Panitch. Esther, here we are. Wednesday, 14 hours of deliberation, still no verdict. That surprise you at all?
You know what? For the defense, it's a moral victory that they've kept the jury out for as long as they have. It doesn't really surprise me, though, because there are so many pieces of evidence that the jury will want to look for. They are deliberate. You saw this in their questions that they asked of the judge and the witnesses. They want to know everything. And so in order to do that, they need to go through all of the evidence. This was a 4-month trial. Resolution is not going to come that quickly.
Yeah. Well put. Do you think they're zoning in on the killing itself?
I don't know what they're doing. I've done jury trials for a long time, and I have no idea what goes on in that room. The closest I ever came was being a guest on the HLN jury. So, you know, I don't know what they're doing. I have spoken to jurors after their trials are over, and, you know, they sometimes find things that nobody else finds. They will have a different theory sometimes than the prosecution, as well as the defense, as well as all the pundits. Yeah. So you never know. I am very curious and intrigued by what they are going to say when they're done.
Let's bring back our expert, Esther Panitch. A lot to cover there. Treasure trove from our caller there. So yes. A few things, and let's work backward to forward. The matching outfits. Would that ever be planned? Because Jodi Arias and Jennifer Wilmot, they'd have the off-white on, the navy. And it was like, wait a minute.
I don't know if it was planned. It may have been. Sometimes if I have a co-counsel, I'll just make sure we don't clash with each other, but we certainly don't coordinate outfits. So maybe it was just a coincidence. They have to shift their wardrobe every so often. They know they're on TV, so they may not want to wear the same things again and again. But I don't know that it was planned. There's certainly no secret strategy that I'm aware of to match your clothes.
Let me hit you with the other one real quick. Teresa, great point. Why no X-ray on the finger? They argued about it, whether it was broken, and she held up the bent finger.
Well, of course, the court can't get involved in presenting its own evidence. So unless this is a mental health defense where they can only appoint an expert to testify, such as an insanity plea, the court would not be bringing in its own evidence. It's an adversarial system. You have the state and you have the defense. And the juries can only evaluate the evidence based on what's presented by those two parties. The court cannot get involved because it would look like the court is siding with one side over the other, which is, of course, not allowed. The court is neutral. Got it.
Last one. What about the moms? Isn't that something, you know, as we look at the dynamic that plays out in court and everybody really voting, Cindy Anthony is the most memorable mom here.
And I got to agree. The difference in this case is that Sharon Rufo is the mother of a victim. She didn't come into this case until, unfortunately, her son was murdered. Sandra Arias didn't come into this case until her daughter was arrested. But Cindy was involved from the beginning. She's actually a fact witness on top of a mitigation witness for her daughter. So she is the one who called 911 to say that something smelled like a dead body in her car.
That's right.
She is the one who reported Kaylee to be missing. And she testified on behalf of her daughter, which, you know, she wasn't really on her daughter's side when the whole thing started, when she called 911 to begin with. So Cindy actually has a different role than the other mothers do in this case.
Yeah, which makes her probably the most memorable. And I can remember the prosecutor, Linda Drain-Burdick, asking her questions, and the frustration is she didn't expect the answer she got from Cindy Anthony as we look back. All right.
But nobody should be surprised that a mom is going to lie for her child.
Good point there. Today could be the day when you talk about a verdict in the Jodi Arias murder trial. We have our expert with us, great defense attorney, Esther Panitch. And Esther, all right, here we are. It's Wednesday, and it's tough to read the tea leaves. Some surprised, some not, that we haven't had a verdict at this point. But one aspect of this is whether or not Jodi Arias connected with that jury. Well, you think back, and Esther, 18 days on the stand, and even you go back before the cross-examination, when she was taking questions on direct from her attorney, Kirk Nurmi, she was just turning that jury and telling her life story. You think she connected with somebody?
I think it's very hard not to connect when you are with them and on the stand and talking for 18 days. It will be very hard for a jury to disregard the emotions that they heard and the story. Even if they believe she lied about most of the things she said, it's going to be very hard for them to disregard that and impose the ultimate punishment of death. I think the only thing that hurts her in that case, aside from her lying, of course, is the fact that she got combative on cross-examination. And she showed that there is a side to her that is not so sweet, that she can fight back. She's not a wallflower. And so all of her testimony that she just took orders or just listened to Travis really just goes away when she's able to fight back and hold her own, when she was arguing and going toe-to-toe with Juan Martinez. So that's the only thing I can see that really hurts her, aside from, of course, the bad facts. But in terms of the jury's ability to connect with her, I think it's going to be hard for the jury to disregard that connection.
Right. And again, as you were talking and we were showing the different pictures, there's so many sides to her. You know, there's frail
Yes.
Jodi that had the tough, you know, that mom hit her with the wooden spoon. And she got to tell those stories, you know, ad nauseum, basically. There's Jodi that lied, and the jury knows that. There's feisty Jodi going to combat with Juan Martinez. And then there's phone sex Jodi, who seemed to be as into it as Travis Alexander. It's a lot for the jury to take in if they want to zone in on her specifically.
That's right. Well, people are complicated, and Jodi showed us all the many sides of what people can be like. And so it always amazes me when someone says, well, this person isn't capable of doing something, or there's no way this person's character would allow them to do something. Clearly, there are parts of people that other people never get to see, or very few people get to see. And so you did see, she confessed to all these things. Heck, she taped some of these conversations that if I ever had them, I would never record them. Not that I have these types of conversations, but I would never keep them or save them for posterity. So it shows, that alone shows a side of her that's, you know, beyond a little freaky and what people are used to seeing.
Yeah. And was she truthful in all of it? At one point, she's all meek, well, this is embarrassing. And then you hear her on the tape, and she's into it. So, oh, gosh, there's a lot there for that jury. And defense attorney Esther Panitch with us as well. And you were talking about that as well, Esther, just Cindy Anthony being such a central figure in that case.
Yes, she really is the one who started all this by her 911 call. She's the one who reported little Kaylee missing and started this. And even her own statement was just really difficult for her daughter. You know, to say that my daughter's car, it smells like a dead body in there, and her granddaughter's missing, you know, it doesn't take much to put those two things together and to think what Cindy thought at the time. And then now, after, you know, years later, after the benefit of having to live with Casey and having to decide if she was going to be basically the nail that went in her daughter's coffin, you know, she decided not to. She decided to protect her daughter. And, you know, who can judge a mom for doing that? It's against the law. It's perjury if she lied. But as a mother, what mother wouldn't try to help their kids, or at least not be the one who hurts them?
Yeah, and I can remember we talked about that, the frustration from the prosecutor, Linda Drain-Burdick. She's questioning Cindy Anthony, and the answers that are coming back at her, she's not liking it. Everybody knew at that point she was indeed protecting her daughter, Casey. You know, we just listened there at the end to Sandra Arias in the interrogation room. A lot of people wondered, hey, will the jury ever hear that? They didn't. Tell us why not.
Well, because it's too prejudicial, and what probative value could it possibly have? Here you have a mom who is just so overwrought with grief and confusion and disbelief in what her daughter could do. And what would it gain? It's not real evidence of the crime. It didn't, you know, her conversation, she was not a fact witness to the crime. So all it could do is prejudice to the jury and say, even this defendant's mother believes that she could be guilty of something. You know, that doesn't help the defendant, but it also doesn't really make the state's case. It's just way too prejudicial over the little probative value, which is the standard, prejudice versus probative value, that the judge would have to look at to determine whether something is admissible, something like that is admissible.
Yeah, because it was just so damning against Jodi Arias, her mom and dad questioning her whether she, you know, she's a strange person and all the troubles that she was having. Certainly, you wonder what a jury would have done with that, but you make the legal point way too prejudicial there. Let's bring in Esther Panitch as we talk about this. Esther, Nancy said it, a trial like this, as long as it's gone, that sometimes jurors can drop like flies. 3 jurors dropped out. That about right for a 4-month, well, 4+ months here?
I think that's about right. People have other lives besides what goes on in the courtroom, and sometimes their other lives conflict with what's going on in court. We don't know the reasons for all of them to be gone, so we can't really speculate on what happened. It's possible someone was ill. It's possible there was a family member that was ill and needed to be taken care of. We just don't know. So it's not unusual. That's why you have so many alternate jurors. I have also seen jurors come back who are not selected. It was strange for this juror who was selected and sat through so much to come back, although I guess she feels very invested. She has given almost 4 months of her life to this case, and she wants to see it through. But I've had jurors who have not been picked, who felt very close to the subject matter. I had a battered woman syndrome murder trial, and one of the jurors who was not picked because she was a prior victim decided to stay and watch the entire trial. So people feel invested, and of course they want to watch and know about their criminal justice system. It's so mysterious to so many people that when they have the opportunity to come and watch it firsthand and understand what it is we lawyers talk about and what these shows are about, they want to take that opportunity.
Yeah, and from what we gather, some reporting that juror number 5 was upset, visibly upset when she was removed from this case. So again, like you said, it's the investment of months. You want to be one of the decision makers, but at the end of the day, she was not, and then 3 others were named alternates. But the 12